Okay, let's dive into this, because I know we have all been there. You finally get your hands on that shiny new mobile phone, right? The camera module on the back is absolutely huge, the marketing is promising you unparalleled image quality, and you are just incredibly excited to get out there and start capturing the world. You think, this upgrade is going to make my photography instantly, effortlessly better. But then, you take it out for a spin, and suddenly, you feel like you don't even know how to take a picture anymore. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to unpack a highly relatable and, honestly, fascinating journal entry from a photographer named Eng. We're going to explore the really surprising physical realities of upgrading your daily camera tech. In fact, Eng put it absolutely perfectly in their Notes on Photography published on July 14, 2026. They wrote, "Since upgrading my mobile camera, I'm struggling to maintain my usual style and habits." And this just hits the nail right on the head, doesn't it? It's such a brilliant irony. You expect better technology to seamlessly elevate your creative flow, but instead, it completely disrupts it. The very tool designed to make things easier has actually introduced a brand new layer of friction. So, let's look at Section 1, the upgrade dilemma, when better tech disrupts your flow. Here is the absolute paradox of progress. We acquire this immensely powerful new hardware, but suddenly we lose our confidence in capturing those everyday spontaneous shots that used to be just pure muscle memory. Let's look at exactly what changed for Eng. You get higher resolution, theoretically better lenses all around, and this really highly aggressive default post-processing. I mean, these are the exact bullet points printed on the back of the box to get you to buy the phone, right? But as Eng quickly discovered, these new specs don't just passively upgrade the look of your photos, they fundamentally rewrite the rules of engagement. They actually demand that you change how you physically interact with your device.
Which brings us to Section 2, shifting the distance, the new physical requirements of macro photography.
The single biggest shift Eng experienced actually wasn't some hidden software setting. It was moving from a dedicated mobile macro lens over to a telephoto lens for close-ups. And this brilliantly illustrates a profound physical paradigm shift. See, with a traditional dedicated macro lens, like what you see on the left, your habit is to get right up into your subject's personal space. You're hovering literally millimeters away from a flower or an insect. It feels very intimate, very hands-on. But on the right, with the telephoto lens taking over those macro duties, you actually have to back away. You are suddenly shooting from a strictly required distance. You can't just shove the phone up to your subject anymore. You have to step back to allow those new optics to properly focus, and that requires a completely different bodily habit. Moving on to Section 3, built-in drama, the algorithmic benefits of the upgrade. Now, of course, it's not all struggle and physical friction. There is a massive, immediate payoff to this new hardware. The machine's algorithms are now doing some serious heavy lifting for you behind the scenes. Eng points out these really aggressive default post-processing perks. We're talking built-in vignetting that naturally draws the eye right to the setter. You've got beautiful depth of field bokeh that perfectly blurs the background, and noticeably increased color vibrancy. The resulting shots are, to use Eng's exact words, definitely more dramatic. And the best part? It drastically reduces the need for manual editing. Eng noted they basically only need to slap a watermark on the image and it is ready to publish. The phone is essentially acting as your own professional, real-time photo editor, polishing up the image before you even open your camera roll. So, the crucial point is understanding the absolute limits of this computational magic. What happens if you try to push past the physical limitations of that telephoto lens by using digital zoom to get just a little bit closer? Well, Eng found out the hard way. The photo simply becomes a blurry mess. The illusion completely breaks down. You hit this harsh, unforgiving wall where the software simply cannot compensate for the lack of real optical data. You are strictly forced to respect the physical focal distance that the hardware dictates.
Okay, Section 4, the human tripod, adapting the body to the machine.
This brings us to what I honestly consider the absolute most fascinating part of Eng's entire journal entry. When you combine the required distance of a telephoto lens with the need for pinpoint accuracy in macro photography, you run into a massive stabilization issue. At that focal length, any tiny, microscopic shake of your hands is drastically magnified, and it ruins the shot. So how exactly do you adapt to this? You literally have to become a human tripod. Step 1, you distance yourself from the subject. As we just discussed, you're backing away to respect the lens's minimum focal distance. Step 2, and this is the quirky, brilliant physical adaptation, you place both hands firmly against your stomach. Why? Because your core torso is vastly more stable than your extended arms. Step 3, you use that bodily anchor to stabilize the telephoto shot. You are essentially using your own anatomy to counteract the extreme sensitivity of the modern hardware. You aren't just casually holding a camera anymore. You are physically locking your body into this rigid stance just to accommodate the machine's strict requirements. Now, Aang is a pragmatist. Despite discovering this incredibly unique human tripod technique, and despite thoroughly enjoying the dramatic, pre-edited look of the new photos, the verdict isn't fully in just yet. The ultimate test is still awaiting. Aang is reserving final judgment until they have the proper opportunity to evaluate these physical and technical adaptations during a dedicated photo walk in the coming weeks. That sustained, real-world field test, taking photo after photo out in the wild, that is where you truly find out if this new, rigid physical workflow is actually sustainable and, more importantly, enjoyable.
So all of this leaves us with an incredibly provocative question to consider. Is modern computational photography enhancing your creative vision, or is it simply forcing you to adapt to the machine's preferences? Are these incredible new lenses making us better, more expressive photographers, or are we just becoming highly trained operators of opinionated algorithms? The next time you're out taking pictures and you feel that urge to press your phone right up against a subject, notice how the hardware forces you to behave. Notice if you have to step back. Notice if you have to brace your arms against your stomach and become a human tripod. It is completely changing how we physically interact with the world around us. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it helps you look at that supercomputer in your pocket in a whole new light.